Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope doing well, and today I'll be doing a bit of a conversation and commentary on a recent event that happened to a good friend of the channel, Matthew Kadish of the Salty Nerd podcast, dealing with a major director in Hollywood, James Mangold, and the upcoming Indiana Jones 5 film. Now, before I go any further, please be sure to smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. Today, I'd like to talk about the tale of three different directors, because in the end, we actually are dealing with very different directors with also very different ways of approaching fans, approaching people who are wanting to and desiring to consume the content that you create, and what the appropriate response would be to any form of criticism whatsoever. So if you have been a little bit behind on this story, it's now a little bit older, and one of the reasons why I wanted to wait on this was because I wanted to make sure I did this right, and also I didn't really want to jump on the click train. I wanted it to be just from the heart and just to be able to have it be just my honest opinion and commentary and not influenced by any emotion of the day, and to, of course, let things play out the way that they were, and, of course, to let the Salty Nerd podcast crew get their say on the matter, which they were able to on a recent episode of their podcast, which should be made available soon. And again, subscribe over to the Salty Nerd podcast. And, of course, also follow Matthew Kadish over here. And so this is the original tweet that got Matthew Kadish in trouble. He says, "To anyone thinking Indiana Jones 5 might be good, just let me point out. 1. Steven Spielberg is not directing. 2. Kathleen Kennedy is producing. 3. Harrison Ford is 78 years old. 4. It's written by Jonathan Kasdan, who wrote Solo." Okay, let's talk about a few of these points, because these are points that have been brought into contention by some people. Some have brought, I think, an accurate point about the fourth one there, especially about who actually is writing this story, while the others, to me, kind of fall into the realm of it just being silly. So first off, Steven Spielberg not directing, that is a fact. James Mangold is directing. One of the responses that James Mangold gave was that he and Steven have been brothers in this process, and so he's still very much involved. Okay, he's still not a director. Still listed as, I believe, as an executive producer, and not even a full-fledged producer on this project, which means probably he has some involvement, but in the end, people who are listed as executive producers are the ones who are just kind of throwing their name behind it, maybe throwing a little cash behind it as well, but really aren't all that present as far as the actual process is concerned. Kathleen Kennedy, though, is going to be a producer on this movie, and if we know anything about films that Kathleen Kennedy produces, if it's especially in her creative control, of which, of course, we know Lucasfilm is, and we know that she also has a lot of influence in Disney, we know that already and automatically should be a red flag for a lot of people, because we've seen what she has done with Star Wars, and I know that nobody would want to see her be able to do the same thing to Indiana Jones, though I will argue that it probably has already arguably been done with Indiana Jones 4, which is still an abomination and one that I refuse to admit even exists. That third point, Harrison Ford being 78 years old, some people have called Matthew ageist for pointing out this fact. That's right, this is a fact. Harrison Ford is 78 years old. If you see pictures of him and interviews of him, he does not look very good. He obviously looks his age. By not looking good, what I mean is that for an action hero of which Indiana Jones is supposed to be, not really looking all that great. That's not an ageist comment, that is just pointing out a reality. It would be like me pointing out, hey, I really like Liam Neeson's action films. However, for anyone to say that Liam Neeson looks like an action hero, obviously a lot of us are going to say, okay, well, hold your horses there. Maybe won't go so far. But at the very least, he is able to physically put up enough so that his stunt men and stunt, people can take over for him after the fact. Harrison Ford, not really even showing that basic ability before that even happens. And again, that's not being ageist. That's, hey, he happens to be 78 years old. We age. It's a natural part of life. And then the fourth point here, the most contentious of them all, that it was written by Jonathan Kasdan, who wrote Solo's Star Wars story, which, of course, would be cause for concern because Solo was a complete trash fire. Now, it has since been confirmed, of course, and we've been able to know this for a while, if you dig deep enough, that Jonathan Kasdan is not the primary writer on this project. However, we don't actually have any official word on that, except if you go to a reply tweet of which Jonathan Kasdan sent to someone asking him, hey, how's Indiana Jones 5 going? And he said, my part on the project is over, which actually indicates that Jonathan Kasdan did have a role to play in the writing. For a long time, he was listed and credited over on IMDb, and so therefore this is not just some left field out of nowhere comment. And also, at the same time, because we know, based on what the words of Jonathan Kasdan himself has said, that there might be still some ideas and concepts from Jonathan Kasdan in the end product. So, how did this Hollywood director respond? Well, based on what I am seeing here, it looks maybe like he deleted his tweets. No, there we go. It's a little bit further down. So just been a lot of conversation on this. I was kind of interested in this opinion. Anyway, it says here, thanks, Matt. So here's James Mangold responding. By the way, just keep in mind, look at this. The only tag that he has in this entire thread is hashtag Indiana Jones 5. He's not calling out James Mangold. He did not say anything about James Mangold, and also he did not say it's impossible for this movie to be any good. All he says is if you think it might be good, here are some things that you might want to consider as to why Matthew Kadish, in his own personal opinion, as an individual human being, thinks that there might be some various issues that might pop up with this specific issue going forward. So let's actually dive into then the response that James Mangold gives here to Matthew Kadish, who is a fan. Notice how it's replying directly to Matthew Kadish, even though he claims he's responding to a blog or a news website and fake information and, oh, I was tagged by somebody. Notice that he's not responding to whoever tagged him. This right here is a direct response to Matthew. No one else is tagged in this response, just Matthew. So even that in and of itself shows that whatever it is that he's claiming about being tagged by somebody in this process doesn't really hold a lot of water if we just look at this reply. Because if that were true, then he would be replying to whoever actually tagged him in the process. But here he says this. Thanks, Matt. 1. Keep making the world a better place, crapping on things in the first week of production from your basement. Where have we seen that kind of language before? That's right, we've seen that from people like Rian Johnson and other creators from Lucasfilm attached to Disney, calling people basement dwellers, people living in their mama's basements, putting out videos, criticizing these people. Very, very classy there, James Mangold, to be saying this about a fan of the franchise. And I know it might be hard to see that he's a fan of the franchise because in your mind, a fan can only be positive. A fan can only have positive things to say, even though if you even took a second to talk to any fandom, you would realize that there are conversations going on every single day about so many different topics, and there's various opinions about said topics. Fandom is not about all agreeing on the same thing. Fandom is about having passion for something specific. And that fandom can manifest itself in various ways. There are literally fans of sports teams who, buying tickets, buying merchandise, literally will yell expletives at their own players. That is a type of fandom. That's a pretty odd type of fandom to me, but it is still a type of fandom. So, interesting take here, James Mangold, also throwing in there an insult. Again, directly insulting Matthew Kadish, who did not insult James Mangold in this process. His second point, never seen a script by John. Nothing against him, just reality. Buttersworth and I started from a blank page. Interesting. Well, then you may want to talk to Jonathan Kasdan, who, once again, had a tweet back in March of 2020 where he says, my work on the film is finished, meaning that he indeed had some role to play in the process. Now, whether or not the stuff that he wrote made it through to James Mangold when James Mangold took over, whether or not James Mangold was made aware of any of that is obviously unknown, but that also should cause some concern that the person who's supposed to be heading this film and this project would not have known about other writers and their influence or their potential influence on a story. I find that bit a little bit interesting. So anyway, that's like the only real point that he's able to actually push back on is who actually wrote the story. Even though, as I said, IMDb at one point was reporting Jonathan Kasdan. Many other people were reporting Jonathan Kasdan as well. Again, go ahead and look back for yourself. There's plenty of articles that point this out. And even Jonathan Kasdan himself says that his role in the filmmaking process, though complete and finished, still existed nonetheless. And then his third point, it says there, I-3 are hugely talented and all on my side. And so that means they're talking about points 1 to 3 about all being on his side, saying Spielberg is very talented and on his side, but he's not directing. That Kathleen Kennedy is on his side and is talented. Okay, stop right there. You're trying to tell me that Kathleen Kennedy is a good producer, is a good creative mind? Just look to Star Wars. Over $2 billion for The Force Awakens. Where did it end with the last of the sequel trilogy? Oh, that's right, $1.1 or so billion, even less than what The Last Jedi had. So they lost about half their audience. Oh yeah, Kathleen Kennedy. She knows what she's doing. And then also, too, calling and saying, rather, that Harrison Ford is 78 years old. How in the world is that attacking and not saying Harrison Ford's a good person? All that's pointing out is a fact that he is 78 years old and he's trying to play a role that is made for a much younger person. Something that he just really is not in a position to play anymore. And so obviously there have been many different comments that have been made to this. So obviously the Salty Nerd podcast got involved in this very process. And James Mangold continued to respond to person after person, spending almost the entire day on the Sunday in which this took place, and going even into the Monday after this, that this took place as well. And I'm trying to find one of the next points here, because at one point, you actually had Salty Nerd Podcast post an image of their studio, and James Mangold decided to go after it. In fact, let's see if we can look to the tweets and replies here. He may have even deleted them, because there were indeed some comments that had been deleted as such, which is pretty crazy. Oh, here Mangold decides to start taking some basically some victim status here. Okay, yeah, here it is. So Salty Nerd comes in, says, we don't have basements, but we do have a kick-ass studio with a Batman statue. Again, clearly playing around here, clearly having fun. And what does James Mangold, multi-million-dollar director at Hollywood, do? Yeah, that's a kick-ass studio. Congrats on the Batman statue and the jar of corks. So how about you let me finish my film and then complain all you want about it in front of your vinyl bricks, lit by your fancy bounce lights, and maybe don't call opinion news. Now, here's the interesting thing. At what point here in the original post did Matthew Kadish ever at any point say that what he is saying is news? None. Let us also remind everybody that at no point did he even tag James Mangold in the original tweet. However, James Mangold is willing to attack this group of people, an awesome group of people, the Salty Nerd podcast, making fun of even a jar of corks, Corky, who has now become a fandom menace phenomenon, has become now, in many ways, a character for all of us to look up to. So this is the story of James Mangold, right? And there's another point, too, where James Mangold essentially says, today I got attacked by blah, 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 blah. And again, trying to use victim status when, at the end of the day, he's the one that went after Matthew Kadish in the first place, and also punched down by going after a channel that just because of this, so thank you, James Mangold, was able to get over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So that's who James Mangold was going after. So this is the tale of just one director. Let's talk about a couple of other directors. This is the one that I wanted to focus on primarily. Let's talk about Jeff Fowler. This is a tweet that's still pinned from February 18th in 2020. And it says here, there's one word in my head this morning, and it's gratitude. Thank you to all the amazing people that helped make the Sonic movie. And most importantly, thank you to the fans for sticking with us and delivering an extraordinary record-breaking weekend. Much love to you all. Look at that. Love to the fans. Thank you to the fans. And remember what happened with Sonic. The first trailer for Sonic came out, and what happened? Fans attacked it. Fans said, this is not Sonic. This is not good. This is terrible. And how did he respond? Hey, I'm sorry that you feel that way. Let's look into this. Let's talk this out. What are the issues that you have? Let me hear your grievances. And guess what he decided to do? He delayed his movie. Something that is very uncommon, I would say, that they would actually listen to the fans and then actually decide to delay their multi-million-dollar budget movie. But they did that. And the film did so well that they are actually just wrapping up here Sonic 2. Look at it here, May 12th of this year. That's a wrap in Vancouver. Thank you for all the amazing cast and crew in this city. So much incredible talent helping make Sonic Movie 2 truly special. Spoiler alert, epic. This is a movie that when it was first announced and when that first trailer came out, I was convinced it was going to flop because fans were upset. It was not really Sonic the Hedgehog. The design in that trailer was not good. Had they seen the full product yet? Did Jeff Fowler come out and say, don't worry and trust me, everybody. Why are you being so hateful? I'm going to go ahead and go on a 12-hour, 24-hour attack spree of you for not enjoying my trailer for a film you've never seen before. No. Instead, he listened to the fans. He, therefore, extended himself by spending more time on the project to make it right. And then what happened? Oh, that's right. People saw that and said, wait a minute, Jeff Fowler cares. Jeff Fowler actually cares about the voices of fans. And guess what happened? People like me, who had very little interest in it initially, went to go see it. Not because I wanted to, not because I thought it'd be good. And in the end, I didn't really enjoy it all that much. But because he was able to, at the very least, show enough respect to the fans, where I was like, I'm going to go support your film just because you happen to have shown support to the fans. Someone else who's done something similar, Colin Trevorrow of the Jurassic World franchise. This man is getting hit every single day with criticism for his work in the Jurassic World universe. What does he do? Oh, that's right. He does this. Colin Trevorrow has always gone above and beyond for Jurassic World fans, and this year's no different. As a token of appreciation, I asked a few fans from around the world to do something special for Colin and the crew. Watch the video using the link below. So you have here people in the fan base thanking him. Thanks, everyone. You warmed us all up on a cold day in England. He's constantly responding to people who are both giving positive feedback, giving negative feedback, saying thank you to the fans as well. He is going out of his way to do this. It says right here, this time Jurassic World is trending. May I remind you that I need more screen time. I hope Colin Trevorrow needs this so that he won't forget about this spitter this time, talking here about one of the dinosaurs from the original, and says, I appreciate this argument. Interesting. It says here, I love your movies, Colin. Don't get me wrong, but silence like this, dude, you're from Oakland, not even a word. It says listening even more than talking, but I'm here for this moment. Black Lives Matter and Black Heroes Matter. My job is to create heroes of color who can inspire kids around the world. You saw that in Big Rock, and you'll see it again in Dominion, doing the work to make permanent change. So he is also someone who I would say is on a very different side of the political aisle. And yet, even then, I don't see any hatred of him showing towards fans. It says here, hey, although Jurassic Lions tweeted was pretty harsh, they realized later that they shouldn't have been so forceful. Please be kinder towards each other. And he says here, I didn't find the tweet harsh at all. That's real talk. That's the kind of response from someone who it looks like I probably would disagree with on a lot of issues. And yet he shows respect. He doesn't go after fans. He doesn't attack fans for their opinions on films. Jeff Fowler, an even greater example. Again, someone who listened to the fans so much, he extended his time and also extended the budget of the film, which was even more of a risk, and the film ended up being a financial success, so much so they were able to make a sequel. So this is a tale of three directors. You have one who will attack fans, attack their studio, punch down, spend hours upon hours putting more and more negativity. At one point, literally just cursing people out, dropping F-bombs left and right. That's when I kind of got involved because I'm like, really, you need this language right now? Then you have others like Jeff Fowler, who still, to this day, over a year later, his pinned tweet is a thank you to the fans for making Sonic happen and for making it better. And then you also have Colin Trevorrow, who as well is not only thanking fans, but is also responding to them in a positive, constructive way, and is getting videos where people are actually saying, hey, thank you for listening. Thank you for being someone who will listen to this fan base. A tale of three directors. One who comes across very much so as an ass. One who listens to the fans, and even though I'm not a big fan of his film Sonic, I respect the heck out of for his response. And another who I like some of the stuff that I've seen him do, and I dislike the other stuff, and yet he is still willing to hear criticism, respond, talk, and have conversation. So what are your thoughts about these three different directors? And let me just be very clear here. I enjoy a lot of the films that James Mangold has done. Ford v Ferrari is one of my favorite films of that year. Logan, also one of my favorite films of that year. Arguably one of the best of the X-Men films to be made. At least one of my favorites. But I'm going to tell you this right now. It's this kind of behavior on social media. It's this kind of behavior and it's this kind of vitriol that's being sent towards fans, being sent towards people who did literally nothing wrong. This speaking from the ivory tower, thinking that they can do no wrong, thinking that their word is gospel, Hollywood elitist mentality that's going to push people away from their product. It has already made me, who already was not wanting to go see Indiana Jones 5, because in my opinion, there's 3 Indiana Jones films, because that 4th one was an abomination, and Lord knows this one, based on what this person thinks of fans, based on how this person treats fans, I don't have very high hopes for, even though I did initially when he was announced because of his previous work. This is what drives fans away. So again, James Mangold, I'm sure that you like to use this a lot in your own space, and I'm sure you have a lot of friends that like to use this word and expression in your own space. Check your privilege for a moment. Get your head out of your tush. Open up to the fans, and maybe, just maybe, you can win some of them back. But anyway, what are y'all's thoughts about this? Let me know in the comments section below. And again, a shout out to Matthew Kadish and the Salty Nerd Podcast crew for just being awesome, cool, chill people. And to, as what Matthew Kadish said, I agree. These are all things that I think should indeed be cause for concern, especially with the photos that we have out. And to anyone who says, well, he's right, because there's only a week into production, how can you form an opinion? Oh, okay. If that's how we're going to play it, well, then how can you form an opinion on anything when a trailer comes out? Are you also going to attack every single person who's ever done a trailer reaction? Are you also going to go after every single person who's ever done an instant reaction to early shots from a film that don't go in a direction? If you can think about a franchise that you love, if you can think about something that you are incredibly passionate about, if you saw early set photos, and if you saw certain people attached, and if you were starting to see and hear things that seem to coincide together, are you telling me that you would not have an opinion? Please, enlighten me. Anyway, make sure y'all smash that like button, light up that fire button. Thank you all very much for your time and attention. I went a little long today, but I wanted to dedicate some time to this video. I want to again thank you all for being the amazing and beautiful people that you all are. So thank you again for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. Now for a huge shout out to all of my June Patreon and Subscribe Star members: Andrew Hoyle, Biffer the Hobbit, Brian P., Dion, Don Bruno de la Mancha, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father. Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Inflamed Wood, It's a Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toone, Jonathan Carney, Laura the Modern Major General's Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, and rather Teresa Martin is Miss Martin Muses now, Tina Bojan, Tina B., and Washington Madranda. Thank y'all very much for being my supporters on Patreon. And to my Subscribe Star peeps, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stand For, John B., Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / The New Number 2, J. Rod the Beer Guru, Nevanon G. Adams, and ZK Man. Thank you all very much for being my Subscribe Star members, and if you want your name shouted out at the end of every video and live stream, please consider joining on Patreon or Subscribe Star. You also get access at other tiers to things like a bi-monthly podcast, bi-weekly, twice a month podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger, which is a lot of fun. There's also a tier in which you can join me once a month for the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, where you all get to, at that level, join me for discussions, talk about any projects that you might be working on, or just hang out and have a good time. It's a lot of fun. And also, too, for many of those levels, you also get access to a giveaway section on the Discord server, where you get access to giveaways of things like 4K movies, digital codes, and tons of other stuff like that. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, check out the links in the description and sign up over on Patreon and Subscribe Star. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.